Okay, so I'm about to talk about The Last of Us 2. I realized after I recorded that I completely forgot to sum up the story of The Last of Us 2. So we're gonna do that real quick. So there are these two guys, Joel and Tommy. They're brothers. They Joel has a adopted daughter named Ellie. Um, in the first game, it's a zombie story. In the first game, Joel was going to help a group of people called the Fireflies make a cure for the zombie disease using Ellie's, what he thought was her blood. No, it's her brain, and she's gonna die. And so he breaks in the hospital. He's like, "Hey, you're not taking my daughter." And they're like, "Yeah, we're taking your daughter. Sorry, it's for the good of humanity." And Joel goes, "I don't fucking care about humanity. I want my daughter." And so he just starts killing people. Um, Fast forward like uh 20 years. Let me look. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. 4 years. What? All right, 4 years. Sure. Um, Fast forward 4 years. Ellie's like, "Hey, Joel, what was up with those guys called the Fireflies? I thought my life was gonna mean something." And he was like, "Oh, don't worry about the Fireflies, Ellie. Your life already means something for me because you're my daughter, and blah 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 blah. And I lost my daughter." And so Ellie's like, "Okay, that's weird." And then eventually she figures out, "Oh, okay. Uh, they they probably could have made a cure, and I would have died, but I would also save the world, and I didn't get any involvement in that choice. Joel just killed everybody before I got to say anything. I'm really mad at him for that." And so they don't talk for a couple years, and then uh, this girl named Abby and her group of uh, married men, I guess, uh, find Joel, and they're like, "Hey, are you Joel?" And Joel's like, "Yeah, that's me. I'm Joel." And Abby's like, "Oh my god, dude, it's Joel. Fun fact, Joel, my dad was a firefly doctor, and you killed him." And so she shoots him in the leg with a shotgun and then clubs his head in. And midway through all this, Ellie runs in and she's like, "Oh my god, Joel is dying." And so they make Ellie watch as Joel's head gets clubbed in with a golf club. Rough scene, honestly. Skip ahead a couple months, and Ellie's like, "Hey, Abby needs to die. Uh, I hate Abby." And Tommy is like, "Ellie, you are right. Abby's gotta die. I'm gonna go get her." And so, hang on. Sorry, I had to cough. Um, so Tommy's like, "Yeah, you know what? Abby does have to die. I'm gonna go get her." Tommy's like 60. He doesn't. He he's not built for this. So he goes out to Seattle from Virginia, which is quite a distance. And Ellie's like, "Well, Tommy's not going to get the job done. Let me go fucking. I'll go kill him too, or not kill him. I'll go kill her too. Me and Tommy are going to kill Abby." And Dina, who is Ellie's girlfriend, is like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come with you." And so they go across the country, start chasing Abby and her merry men. Uh, they find a cult, they find some other stuff. They don't really find Abby though, but they find a couple of Abby's group, and Ellie kills them. Um, One of them was a pregnant woman, which she is obviously a little heartbroken about. And then from there, the game switches perspectives, rewinds 2 days, and you play as Abby. You're going through Seattle, you find a big scary zombie monster, and she's afraid of heights, and she has to get these two kids to uh, like a group that will save them because there's another group called the Seraphites who are trying to murder the kids. I don't think it's ever made clear why, but they just want to. Um, so, oh no, they're apostates. I don't know what that is. Abandonment of a religion. Oh, okay, I see. They abandoned the Seraphite religion. I have the Wikipedia article pulled up. I have it mostly committed to memory, but sometimes you gotta remember. So you go through the entire plot with Abby now, and if you're anything like me, when the game switches perspectives, you hate Abby. She is the worst. She killed Joel. She's terrible. Blah 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 blah. But as events unfold and as you get through more and more things playing as Abby, eventually she kind of starts to grow on you. You warm up to her. I got cough again. So then you switch back perspectives to Ellie, do a brief little fight scene with Abby, switch back perspectives to Abby. You're getting these two kids across the country. There's like hellfire and brimstone, and like buildings are exploding. It's like there's a whole other war unfolding in Abby's story. Dude, I don't know why I keep having to cough. Um, but there's it from this point on, Abby's story gets like extremely complicated, and none of it actually matters to the overall plot. Um, but then several months go by. Ellie and Dina are living on a farm, and they have a kid with them. And Ellie suffers from PTSD. Uh, in the fight with Abby in Seattle, Tommy gets shot in the head. But then Tommy comes back and is, I think, fine. I think he's missing an eye, but he is alive. And he's like, Abby or Ellie, you have to kill Abby. Go get him. And Ellie's like, I don't really want to. And Tommy's like, but you gotta. And Ellie's like, well, you're right. I gotta. So she goes back across the country to get Abby again. Eventually, they stumble across Abby and one of the kids stranded on a beach about to be tortured by a cult. None of the cult's there, but they're about to get tortured by the cult. Or no, they're about to die. Um, and so Ellie attacks Abby. Abby bites off two of Ellie's fingers so she can't play guitar anymore, which is how she remembers Joel. Ellie almost drowns Abby, but then it's like, you know what? This isn't bringing Joel back. I don't even really want to do this in the first place. Fuck it. And she spares Abby. Abby and the kid sail away, and Ellie goes back to the farmhouse where nobody is there. All of the things have been packed up. She tries to play Joel's guitar. It doesn't work because she's missing two fingers. She thinks back to her last memory of Joel, where she was like, well, before he got his head clubbed in, where she was like, I'm willing to forgive you for the Fireflies thing, and then the game ends. I love that story. It's so overcomplicated, and there's so much bullshit, and it's so like overstuffed, and it's maybe a little too convenient that they're in Virginia, then they're in Seattle, then they're back in Virginia, then they're in like I think Florida is where the last of the game or where the last part of the game ends. No, California. They go across the country like 6 times total, but all of that doesn't really matter because the story is so engaging and entertaining, and like there's so many AAA games that I've played where the plot is just a reason for me to do shit. The Last of Us 2 is not that. I play the plot of The Last of Us 2, even if it's not delivered in the best way, and I'm having a blast just because these characters are so, if I'm going to be honest, a little bit manic. Uh, they make decisions kind of on a whim, and I don't know if it's the most realistic story in the world, but it is extremely entertaining, and I think that is what makes a phenomenal story is if it is entertaining, especially for video games, because yeah, like I could look through my entire PlayStation lobby right now, or not lobby, uh, library, and find so many games that I just don't care about the story. The Last of Us is story first, and it's immensely entertaining, and you can connect with it. I think that's pretty good. Okay. I think this is the second one of these that I've done for one of your classes, which is very funny. I like that I get to play Fortnite and talk about things that I like, uh, and get graded for it. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Um, so the story I've decided to sort of dissect and discuss is The Last of Us 2. I think I I don't think I've ever like turned around on a game more than I have Last of Us 2 because I remember when it came out, I really didn't like it, and part of that was stupid. Like it was just me being a stupid. It was 2020. I was it's 2026, and I am 21. So I was 15. God, is that right? Yeah, I was 15. Um, so, you know, 15-year-old, not necessarily the most media literate person of all time. Um, and I think also part of it was just that, like, I didn't really understand it. I think Last of Us 2, it takes a lot of big swings, and I think it's not like a super crowd pleasing game. And I think that's kind of on purpose. It's the kind of game that, like, even just regardless of like the stupider controversies that people had with the game, uh, was always going to generate controversy regardless. Um, just based off of like the narrative decisions they make. Killing Joel obviously was a big one, um, and I think having Ellie not kill Abby like at the end of the game was like an intentionally like unsatisfying decision for them to make. And I think that just like kind of goes to, uh, I think that's to the game's credit. I think it's a game that's like not afraid to make unsatisfying decisions for the purpose of making a point. I think that's interesting. I haven't seen a lot of AAA games do a similar approach where they're like, yeah, this decision is going to make people mad, but we think it's more interesting, uh, like direction for the game to go in. So we're going to do it anyway. Who cares? I think that's sort of like a this is going to sound stupid. It's that's like kind of an indie game thing to do, like where they set out with a specific vision for the game and they don't really care if people like if it uh appeals to everybody because it's not supposed to. And I think to do it with what I'm sure was a very expensive game to develop in The Last of Us 2, uh, was a very exciting choice, and one that honestly like doesn't get talked about enough, which is a shame because like I hate these stupid dynamite things. Um, I want more like big swing risks in AAA gaming, just because like I think people could make a prediction for where the story of The Last of Us 2 would go, but I also think those predictions would be wrong. and I think that's exciting. But to actually get to the uh, the point of like dissecting more of the story, um, so it's basically just two completely separate. I finished that rivalry. Why did the thing not go? Whatever. Um, it's two completely separate narratives that each have their own like layers of complexity going on, but the actual like story of the entire game itself is pretty simple. It's more so about how it how the cycle of violence affects both of these two narratives, and more specifically Abby and Ellie. Uh, I think there's a lot of I think Abby's story is more like optimistic than Ellie's because Ellie chases Abby across the entire country, like just trying to get revenge and angry, and she kills so many people, and it ultimately isn't really for anything because Abby doesn't die. Joel is Joel would be dead regardless. And I think that's the point of the game is like you are going on this super long quest and it does not matter because the core of the issue is still there. Joel is still dead, and obviously no amount of like killing other people will bring him back. And I think that Ellie she sacrifices her relationships, and like Abby bites off her fingers so she can't play guitar anymore, and like guitar was the way her and Joel connected in the last like few months to a year he was still alive. I think that is like a powerful symbol of like Ellie spends this entire game wanting to do something, and then she gets to where she can do it and she doesn't, and even if she did, she would still be like just as empty inside. I think that's awesome. Leave me alone. I'm trying to make a point. um I think that's awesome. I will say it's the game is like sort of deceptively simple. Like I've seen people like criticize that like there's too many characters, and like both storylines feel overbloated, and this, that, and the other thing. The funny little trick about The Last of Us 2 is there's like a million characters, but only four of them even matter like at all. It's Abby, Ellie, Dina, and Tommy. Everyone else, like, yeah, they're good to have the cherries on top, but they really don't matter. They don't contribute too much for the overall. What are these things? I haven't fought this bice. I haven't fought this boss before, so this is maybe not the best time to be doing it. Um, God, I've lost my point. No. Oh yeah, there are very few characters in the game who actually matter, and I think that's an indictment on the game as much as it is like a positive, because it's a deceptively simple game just buried under so much like interpersonal drama and like relationships and history that like we don't even really get to view all of. um and I think that's it makes the world feel more lived in, and I think that is neat. Oh my god, is this a pulse rifle? Oh, dude, I win. Okay, cool. um it has a lot of characters, and not all of them, I'm not even not all of them matter, most of them don't matter, but I think they are still important to the general points that the game is making, even if they're not super important to the overall story itself. The this is the issue with The Last of Us 2, for me at least, is the way it delivers its story is very boring. More so for a like to play it again. Playing through The Last of Us 2 again is probably not something I will ever do, just because it's so like you get gameplay, then you get a cutscene, then you get a long walking segment that's going to take like anywhere to anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. And you're going to be walking, and they're going to be talking, and then I was trying to pick up more ammo. That's a shame. Um, they're going to be walking, and they're going to be talking, and the actual gameplay itself will be very boring. And then it will get to one action set piece, and it will be the most fun thing you've ever done in your entire life. And I think again that sort of goes to the overall point of the game, where it's like, come here, Kim Kardashian. No, the game isn't like that. I was like that. Um, it goes to the overall point of the game, where it's like the cycle of violence is a terrible thing to be a part of, and no one really wins, and it's it's just hate perpetuating hate. But it does have like one of the most fun combat systems in any game ever. So, dude, go nuts. Use the fucking explosive tipped arrow and blow people up, and use the shotgun and the flamethrower and blah 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 blah. It's a very fun, well designed combat game with a story that is very against violence. And I don't know. I haven't figured out how I feel on that, because on the one hand, it is a fun juxtaposition where it's like, hey, we're gonna let you loose in this little playground. Go just fucking maul everybody. It's gonna be so fun, and it's gonna be so like fast paced and action packed, and it's super fun. And then you're gonna think about it, and we're gonna talk about it, and that's the core of the story. And I think it makes for a fun juxtaposition, but I also don't know if this was the game where they had to be like it makes for kind of a mismatch. And I struggle to figure out how I feel about that, because the mismatch, if it's the point, that's a great point for the game. But if it's not the point, that feels stupid. I don't know. It's a very dense game that like I wish I could learn more about the making of, because like if they were purposefully like, hey, we're gonna make this so fun, and then we're gonna make players think about the morality of their actions, and after they just had a super fun time doing it, that's awesome. But if they were just like, yeah, we have to make this story, but also we have to make the actual gameplay fun, and like those two were designed separately, that feels like a pretty obvious misstep. Um, but yeah, the actual gameplay itself is very like it feels like you're on rails for a lot of it, because it's a lot of walking and talking, and then the action set piece happens, and then there's a cutscene, and then there's more walking and talking, and it makes it such a chore to go back to, but it makes for a pretty fun first playthrough. Um, I think I don't know. I I I wish it were structured in a more exciting way to go back to, but I don't know what that could be. I mean, that's what I'm trying to learn this course. It's just like in uh, interesting and uh, like purposeful ways to include story in a game. Like especially for playing through it again, because I love Last of Us 2, but I will never touch it again, because it's just such a slog to get to the parts of the game that I want, because I don't want to replay like the sections where they're walking around and talking. I want to replay like the fun action set pieces, which I will say does make me sound like a complete idiot and also is negating the points I made. But the Dude, the action in that game is so fun. Um, did that do no damage? I'm outraged. Um, but yeah, it's a fun it's a fun action game with the story against action, or not action, but more so violence. Um, boom, easy. Uh, and I think I wish I could learn more about it because if it was intentional, great. I'm making the same point I already made. I have notes here. Let me see if there's other things I need to cover. Um, oh yeah, this was interesting. They recently, I'm pretty sure, added a roguelike mode to the game where it's just like a bunch of action all the time. I feel like that goes pretty far against the the point. No? Like that feels like a complete mismatch. I don't know. I think it's the the choice to make the action so interesting. Because so much of, if I think the game story is genius or stupid, revolves around why did they make the action so fun? Was it just because like they wanted fun gameplay, or was it because they were like, hey, we are going to juxtapose like a depressing ass story with the most fun action you've ever played in a video game ever? I don't know, because if it was on purpose, great. If it was just them wanting engaging action, stupid. I don't know. But I love Last of Us 2. I also love Fortnite. I also love Chapel Roan. I'm glad I got to talk about all that at the same time.